Welcome to the Blind Spot series Unfathomed with Sean and Sarah Pichai. On this episode, we take a deeper look into Kyler's recent video ranking of startup jingles found on VTech toys and explore the science behind nostalgia and childhood cognitive development.
Ever catch yourself like humming some tune and you're like, wait a minute, where did I even pick that up? It's really kind of crazy how those little, what do they call them, earworms, especially from when we were kids, like how do those things stick with us? So today we are taking a deep dive into a world. I don't know about you, but I don't think about this one too much. The surprisingly deep world of toy jingles.
It's true, though, those sounds, they seem so simple on the surface.
Right.
But they're like a little window
Okay.
into bigger things, how our brains develop, the power of nostalgia, even musical trends.
You know, I
Yeah.
never really thought about it that deeply, to be honest. I'm usually just like, where are the earplugs when my niece gets out her noisy toys?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But I think you might be surprised at how complex those jingles can actually be.
Okay, so you've definitely piqued my interest. So
Yeah.
what exactly are we, like, what are we diving into specifically?
So today, we are tuning our ears to VTech. And in case you aren't familiar, it's a brand. They're known for their electronic learning toys.
Gotcha.
And our guide for this deep dive is a YouTuber named Kyler.
Okay.
You can find him on YouTube as the Blind Spot YT.
Okay.
And he's got some strong opinions, let me tell you. He's got a whole ranking system for what he thinks are the best and worst VTech jingles out there.
Okay, so there's a ranking system, you say. Now I'm really interested. So is he, like, coming at this from a musical perspective? Or is it more about, you know, the nostalgia factor?
You know what? It's actually a little bit of both.
Okay.
He's definitely dissecting the music itself.
Right.
But you can tell his own childhood memories, they add this whole other, like, personal layer to it, you know?
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his insights actually give us this great framework
Okay.
to figure out what makes a toy jingle tick.
I like it. So where does Kyler's jingle journey begin?
All right, well, he kicks things off with a real zinger.
Okay.
The Alphabet Animal Train.
Okay.
Specifically, the 2005 UK version.
The UK version. Okay.
Yeah. And brace yourself, because he calls it a war cry.
Oh, no.
He even apologizes in advance in case it hurts our ears.
Oh, my gosh. I'm kind of scared to hear it now. What makes it so awful to him?
Well, he points to the clashing keys,
Okay.
which suggests that, like, maybe subconsciously he's got a good ear for musical harmony, right? And it's interesting because even little kids,
Yeah.
they react badly to that kind of dissonance.
Right.
Like, maybe deep down, it signals that something's off, like an evolutionary response to sounds that just don't sit right.
Yeah. It's true. It's like, it's
Yeah.
almost like a physical reaction, you know, when you hear a bad sound.
Totally.
Wow. I never thought of it like that. So it's not just like Kyler being picky. There's a reason why disharmony is unpleasant. Man, I'm learning so much already.
Right?
Okay. So what's next on his, what's it, the hit list? Or the miss list, I guess.
The miss list.
Yeah.
So next up is the VTech Dial and Discover phone from 2004. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Kyler actually owned this phone as a kid.
Oh.
So we're really going to see that nostalgia factor come into play here.
Ooh, so this is where, like, his own personal preference and, like, you know, the actual musical quality,
Yes,
they could clash.
exactly. And clash they do.
Oh, no.
Because despite the nostalgia, he still ranks this one near the bottom.
Oh.
You guessed it. More clashing keys.
You're kidding. He couldn't get past it.
He can't get past it.
Oh, Kyler.
Yeah,
It really goes to show you, I guess a catchy jingle isn't always a good jingle, huh?
you got it. But in the interest of fairness,
Okay.
Kyler admits that not all the music on the Alphabet Animal Train is terrible.
Okay.
He said he kind of focused on the bad parts for comedic effect.
Right.
And that overall, VTech did pretty good with most of the sound.
It's an important point. It's like you wouldn't judge an entire album just based on one bad song, right?
Exactly. And that actually brings up a really good point about sound design in general. These jingles aren't just these isolated things. They're part of a much bigger sonic landscape within the toy itself.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you've got other sounds, other melodies. You might even have voiceovers.
Oh, totally.
All of that contributes to the experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you have to consider the whole sonic package, not just this one little jingle in isolation.
You got it.
But since we are kind of on the topic of individual jingles, did any of them actually make the cut? Like, were there any good ones?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Let's jump ahead to a couple that Kyler actually enjoys.
Okay.
The Rhyme and Discover book from 2003
Okay.
and the Baby's Learning Laptop from 2007.
The laptop, right?
He really likes both of these.
Yeah.
He praises the musical composition, the interactive elements.
Cool.
He even calls the laptop jingle happy.
Okay, so what's the magic formula here? What did VTech do right with those jingles?
Well, one thing that really stands out is how these jingles blend education and entertainment. Kyler really seems to respond to the fact that they're not just catchy tunes,
Right.
but they also serve a purpose.
Interesting. It's like they're sneaking in the learning
Exactly.
while the kid thinks they're just playing around.
Exactly.
I like it. All right, so we've got Clashing Keys, we've got Happy Laptops. What other Sonic adventures await on this deep dive?
Well, we also got to talk about the Soar and Discover Airplane from 2023.
Okay.
This one, not so much a hit with Kyler.
Really?
Yeah, he says, VTech's jingles are going downhill.
Oh, no.
And he uses the word robotic to describe this one, which I thought was interesting.
Robotic, huh? What does he think? Like a robot wrote the jingle?
Well, not exactly. I think he's getting at the difference in, like, sound production over time.
Okay.
So think about the jingles from when we were kids.
Yeah.
A lot of times they used, like, real instruments, right?
Right.
And those have that natural warmth and depth.
Right.
But as technology changed, a lot of companies switched to digital sounds. And those can sound, well, a bit sterile sometimes. Whereas Kyler put robotic.
That makes sense. Sometimes when I'm listening to like older recordings, there's like a richness to the sound.
Totally.
That's kind of missing from modern music. It's subtle, but you can feel it.
Absolutely. You're picking up on that difference between analog and digital audio.
Okay.
It's like, what's a good analogy?
Right.
It's like comparing a hand-drawn sketch to a computer-generated image.
Oh.
They both have their merits.
Right.
But that analog, it often has this like warmth and imperfection that a lot of people really like.
Okay, I like that. So we've got warm versus robotic. We've got Clashing Keys. We've got Happy Laptops. But like taking a step back from the specific examples, what really stood out to you about Kyler's reactions? Was there like a common thread that you noticed running through his analysis?
What's really interesting is how Kyler's engaging with these jingles on all these different levels.
Okay.
Like, yeah, he's looking at the musicality of it.
Yeah.
But he's also thinking about, like, the emotional response. Even throwing in some ethical commentary, which I did not expect.
Ethical commentary on toy jingles. Okay, now you gotta give me an example of that.
Well, okay, so remember the Soar and Discover Airplane jingle?
Yeah.
He actually calls out the voice,
Okay.
says it sounds robotic, which we talked about.
Right.
But then he goes on to critique Captain Bear, who's like the character.
Oh, no.
And he's like, C is for Captain Bear? What kind of selfish attitude is that?
Oh, Kyler. Only Kyler. But it sounds like he's like really bringing his whole self to these reviews,
Totally.
It's not just about the sound. It's about how those sounds make him feel.
Yes. And potentially, what values they're promoting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this gets to something really important about how we experience sound in general.
Okay.
It's not just, what hits our eardrums.
Right.
Our memories, our emotions, even our own personal beliefs, all of that colors how we hear something.
That's a really good point. So it's not just about a good jingle or a bad jingle. It's
Right.
about that whole like back and forth
Yeah.
between the sound and the person listening to it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. But I do want to loop back to Kyler for a sec.
Okay.
We can't talk about this jingle journey without talking about the nostalgia factor.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He mentioned having a few of these toys himself, right?
It did. And it's so clear how those memories just come rushing back when he hears those jingles.
Yeah.
Like with the Baby's Learning Laptop, he goes on this whole tangent.
Does he really?
Yeah, about like preschool and kindergarten. It's like that jingle opened a floodgate or something.
That's so relatable, though.
Yeah.
There are certain songs, certain sounds, they can just like instantly take me back.
Totally.
It's like, I swear, if I hear the theme song to like my favorite childhood cartoon, suddenly I'm 8 years old again, glued to the TV.
Exactly. It's like these sounds, they get embedded in our memories, and then they become what we call temporal landmarks. They mark these specific moments in time.
Wow.
And they have this crazy power to bring back all those vivid details, sensory things, emotions, even like snippets of conversations. It's wild.
Temporal landmarks. That is such a good phrase.
Right.
So it's like those jingles are these little like sonic time capsules.
Yes.
Each one holds a piece of Kyler's past.
Yes.
And I bet it's not just him, right? I mean, we all have those sounds that take us back.
We totally do. And for a lot of us, those triggers, they come from childhood, when everything's new and our senses are just heightened. It's like we're forming those core memories that end up shaping us.
It's true. It's true.
And it really brings up this big question: why?
Yeah.
Why do these sounds, these simple little jingles, why do they stick with us like that?
Yeah. What is it about them, especially those childhood ones, that makes them so powerful?
Exactly.
I'm thinking it's got to be more than just nostalgia, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, these jingles really get under your skin in a
Coney.
way that just like regular sounds don't.
Well, you're right. It's not just nostalgia. There's a reason why advertisers spend a fortune on catchy jingles.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all about how our brains work.
Okay.
We are hardwired to remember things we hear over and over again, especially when there are emotions attached to them.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the science behind these earworms?
Well, think about the jingles that get stuck in your head.
Okay.
They usually have this like simple melody
Right.
or a phrase that just repeats and repeats.
Right.
It's basically a marketing slogan, but set to music.
Oh, like that old cell phone jingle, right?
Yes.
The one that's like, ba-da-da-da-da.
Exactly.
It's been stuck in my head for like 20 years.
And to make those jingles even stickier, composers often use major keys, which tend to make us feel happy and excited.
Which would explain those happy laptop jingles that Kyler likes so much.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just the music itself.
Uh-huh.
Our brains are also amazing at connecting sounds to memories and emotion. So if you hear a jingle during a happy time in your childhood,
Right?
it gets linked to those good vibes.
Like a little dopamine hit every time you hear it. No
Mhm.
wonder those jingles can be so addictive, even if they do drive us a little nuts sometimes.
Absolutely. And it gets even more interesting because a lot of times
Okay.
these jingles are some of our very first experiences with sound.
Right, when we're little.
Exactly. Which means they can actually have a lasting effect on those developing brains.
So you're saying, like, those jingles could be shaping young minds.
They really could.
Mm.
Researchers are still figuring out all the details, but we do know that early exposure to music and language is incredibly important for cognitive development. Those jingles, especially the ones that use rhymes, repetition, different melodies, they can actually encourage language development and musical awareness in kids.
Wow, so they're not just silly little tunes.
Yeah.
They're like sonic building blocks.
Exactly. And maybe we should give those toy sound designers a little more credit.
I think so. It's more than just making a catchy tune, right? It's about creating these engaging experiences for kids.
Yes. And don't forget.
And for adults, too.
Exactly. Even if it's that,
It's bittersweet.
bittersweet.
Nostalgia, those little sonic souvenirs.
I love that.
So next time you hear a toy jingle, I want everyone to really listen.
Yes.
You never know. It could be the next chart topper.
Right.
Or it could unlock a memory you forgot you even had.
Or, maybe you'll just come away with this deeper appreciation for how sound shapes us
Yeah,
from the very beginning.
that's so true. I mean, we're surrounded by sounds all the time, and I don't think we always realize how much they influence us.
We don't.
This deep dive has been amazing.
It have.
It's totally changed how I think about those little sounds, those toy jingles. It's just amazing how something so simple can open up this whole world of music, memory, even a little bit of science,
It's been my pleasure exploring that with you.
The pleasure was all mine. And to all our listeners, until next time, keep your ears open and keep on listening, because you never know what sonic treasures are out there waiting to be discovered.